What is a narcissist? For those who don't know what narcissistic personality disorder is, many of you probably think of somebody who is extremely vain and likes to take a bunch of pictures and look at me kind of attitude. And yes, that is narcissism, but this type of narcissism is on a whole nother messed up level to where they actually leave destruction in their path, and they are like chronic liars, and the unbelievable amount of bullshit is shocking. They leave a trail behind, just a mess. But what's so like unbelievable about these people is that they seem to be getting away with what they do. Like the consequences to their actions don't seem to be like, okay, I guess there are consequences, but it's like, where is the karma behind it? They seem to just slide by and go into the next life with a new person like that. So my story begins 5 years ago. I met my ex-narcissist online. And before I go into that, I'd like to discuss the differences between a covert and an overt narcissist, because there are two types, though that they can be they can bleed into each other and act like one or the other, or they can act like both and have traits of covert and overt. Coverts are very quiet. You don't really notice them. Like they're not like in your face narcissistic. They're more, in my opinion, more dangerous and more manipulative because they come across as a victim, and they have this poor me mentality, persona, not really a mentality, but more like a persona of to lure you in. So it's definitely a tactic that this predator uses. And I say predator because they are targeting you to exploit you and take your resources. You are not a person, you are a resource. And overt is more like, oh, look at me, look at all this crap I have. Social media, a boaster. They'll be more, in your face about things. And I think that, you can see them coming a little bit more, but they could be just as hurtful, in my opinion. And, they can come across as exciting and reel you in with a life that, seems very fast paced. And, that can be, a way to lure victims in as well. So my experience was with a covert, which begins 5 years ago. I met him online, and meeting people online is it can be very dangerous. And in my case, yes, it was. Do I think that you should stop meeting people online and stop socializing and whatnot, and the whole thing is bad? No. I think it's common, but in the way that, like, you just be cautious and know that there are these scammers out there. Like, they don't always come across as like women wanting money or money scams. But yes, 5 years ago I met my ex on a chat room site, and I was much younger, obviously, and a lot more trusting, because I did not think that these people existed. And you would think that when somebody is not right, so we got to talking, and he was very not charming. He was kind of the opposite. He came across as very shy. And I had gotten out of a relationship previously, from him, before him, with a guy who was, I'd say like, he's not a full-blown narcissist, but he was definitely on a scale, like, he was on a spectrum of an overt narcissist. He was very verbally abusive. Um, he was very full of himself. Everything was very much about that person that I dated previously. So this opened the door to my current ex, who I'm speaking about, the Covert. Because I was not expecting, I was so used to somebody who was putting me down and just being all about themselves. And he was one of my first boyfriends, that other person. So this felt new. This felt different. And different to me meant good. So he was very quiet and seemed to be very shy. And that was extremely appealing to me after my experience. He seemed to be a bit more insecure, and with my empathetic nature, I wanted to nurture that part of him, and make sure that he had confidence. So already he was grooming me to be a fixer, and that's definitely a tactic. Like, that it is what it is. And of course, I didn't know that at the time. I just thought that I was being his friend, and he started confessing romantic feelings for me, very early on. And I think that people can fall for each other very early on. I think that, feelings can be legitimate, and people can feel a connection. I do think that that kind of stuff exists, and it shouldn't be always a red flag, but it's definitely something to look at and consider before you move quickly. Like, I think that having feelings is completely natural, but just, don't make commitments that are that early in before you truly know what's going on. Anyway, so he started confessing these romantic feelings for me, and I wasn't really reciprocating them at the time because I didn't feel that way yet. I wasn't ready. He just kept coming on to me, and it was just, they call it love bombing, and I had no idea what love bombing was at the time, where it was just like excessive compliments, excessive communication, and to somebody who dated guys who were just very distant, this was amazing. It was amazing. I thought, wow, this person just wants to spend every second with me and really get to know me and cherishes everything about me. It was always about me. And I thought it was a little weird, but at the same time, I got addicted to the attention. And, I'm human. I liked the attention, especially since I never received that from another person. So I was just very, I got very caught up in it, and I started thinking and believing that he really cared, and it got me to eventually get to that place of gaining feelings for him. I had childhood wounds that were not resolved, and he definitely played into them. So he was just love bombing me with these, these wonderful things. Like, I guess a red flag, of manipulation. Do I think that these things can be legitimate? Yes. I've already stated that. But this was something that I now look back on and go, that was placed there on purpose to get my mind there in that place. He asked me how I wanted my wedding to be. He asked me all the details, and he actually wrote it down after knowing me for 2 weeks. And I was like, why do you want to know? Like, why is that important? It's a little weird. But he wrote it down, and now I realize he was getting that idea of marriage in my head very early on. And that's, it seemed random, it seemed weird, but it definitely stuck in my head, and that was the reason for that. was to get it in my head. And that's just sick. So, you know, he lives in a different state. And I wanted him to come visit for 2 weeks, just to, you know, hang out, get to know each other in person, because we started having these feelings, and, you know, just to kind of get to know each other and date and figure things out. But so he ended up taking a bus ride here, and he started boasting about that bus ride when we got serious, saying that he traveled for the love of his life all the way over across country to where I was. And it was this huge romantic deal, you know, as part of his image that he was trying to portray. But yes, he traveled here, and those 2 weeks turned into 4 years. And later I found out that he told his family that, you know, that big old story of I traveled for the love of my life, turned into I was only looking for work after we broke up. So interesting how that story completely flipped, because that was actually the truth. He did not come here for the love of his life, me. He came here for a job. And, you know, that was the truth. So he traveled here, and he ended up staying here for 4 years. He convinced me that he loved me. Initial red flags that started the abuse cycle. You know, and these people have addictions. They have addictions. His addiction, and usually it's multiple addictions. So I'm not going to tell, you know, everybody who has an addiction, you're probably not a narcissist if you have a conscience. Like, these people are conscienceless. They have addictions because nothing is ever enough. They're always looking for a thrill in life, and addictions just happen to fit the bill. His addiction that I found out was sex. He was a major sex addict. He had a fiance before me. That's another red flag. They seem to leave a trail of significant others that didn't seem to work out. So like marriages, fiancés, people that they moved in with, and just, you know, just they seem to be hopping around from place to place, or like kids everywhere, you know, just a bunch of unfinished relationship stuff that seem to be very serious, but then they just fall apart and they move on extremely quickly. I mean, you know, usually you need to take like a good year or so to like get your head clear, however long it takes. For them, moving on means within a month or something crazy. Yes, he had a fiance before me, and they used to have an open relationship, and he told me it was all her idea. This is a red flag to me, because it shows that his idea of commitment is very twisted. That's just the truth. I think that if you're willing to have an open relationship with your partner, you know, both people, like, it's a personal choice. But on my personal choice, I don't consider that being committed. That's just the opposite of forsake all others. So yeah, I was just like, you know, I was willing to give him a shot in spite of these threesomes, orgies, or whatever he was doing, because, you know, people change, they grow, they mature, and I was, you know, I was wanting to forgive him and move past it, and I wanted to make sure that he was growing as a person, because he was younger, and I didn't forget it. And, you know, with people who have passed, I think that it is like a misconception that you have to forget everything that they've done. I think that it's a good idea to keep things in mind, because people tend to follow patterns. That is just human nature. If they've done it before, you need to know the reason why, because they can do it again to you. Not to create fear, but just understanding the psyche of the person that, you know, you're with, and knowing, like, how far they can go again, because it can happen again. And are you willing to accept it? In my case, it's something that I learned that I cannot accept. In under certain circumstances, I cannot accept that, and that's just my personal choice. But everybody's different, and you just need to figure out what you're willing to put up with in that regard. But to me, that was not commitment. So I made it very clear to him, we cannot have that in our relationship. We cannot even have, for me, commitment, if we're going to be serious, if you're going to talk marriage and you're going to talk all that stuff to me, you have to know what comes with that. And I'm a very open person. I think you should be very open with your partner and communicating what commitment means to you personally, because that person has to honor that, and you guys have to match in those areas. Otherwise you're gonna have a lot of fighting. So I told him, I can't have any of that in the relationship. And he, I said, if this is something that you need to be with multiple people, don't be with me, because that's not something that I'm going to go for. It's not something that I could ever give you, because it's just, it's weird, in my opinion. He said that he completely understood, and that he knew that, that was going to be a huge no. And, with the covert, because they seem so giving, you want to look past all the rest of the bullshit. Like they put on this huge persona of such perfection, and you want to, nobody's perfect. You want to believe that that this part of crap is not as, important as the big picture. And that's something that they'll shove in your face a lot, is like, well, yeah, I'm not perfect because I do all, look at all this that I do for you. Don't mind this crap I'm putting you through and the lies and bullshit. They want, it's like an illusion that they want you to hold on to. No one is perfect, but nobody who really cares for you is going to put you through the bullshit of lying to you and cheating on you. Habitually, and it's a no-go. So, I was under the illusion of, the big picture over here. I was looking the other way. Everything seemed great, aside from the initial red flags. Within the first year of the relationship, he was extremely giving, even in person. He would make me food, bring up breakfast and cook, and just be so attentive. And I was just like so taken aback by this. I've never seen a man who seemed almost maternal in a way. Like, he was just very giving, and I thought, wow, this may be really early. It's been like 9 months or whatever, however long we were together at that point. And I could see myself marrying this person because he just seemed so giving. I got pregnant early on in the relationship. I was on birth control, so it just was a big surprise. And he was older than me, so he was just like, he was very against the idea of not going through with it. So we went through with the pregnancy, even though I needed to finish school, and he made promises that he was going to be there. And, I believed it. So we had that big step, early on, and that kind of entrapped me in the relationship as well, because I never wanted to tear the family apart. So that was another big thing. So initial red flags, the fights, there was an incident where we went up to go visit my brother, and I was asleep because we had a long drive, and I woke up to him watching pornography. Great. That's very charming, and, after you guys are together and, trying to take a big step into meeting the family. See, highly inappropriate. Like, I've heard that these narcissists and sociopaths, that when you take a big step in the relationship, they'll be all talk and like tell you, oh, I want to take big steps with you, I want to be with you. But when you take those big steps, what I've heard is that they will do things to sabotage it purposefully, so that it gets ruined and you're thrown through like you're thrown into a confused state. So yes, that part is it's part of the manipulation and the grooming, honestly. So I woke up to him watching this pornography, and I was like, what the, I was livid, because I'm just thinking, like, how incredibly rude are you to, we're meeting my family. This is highly inappropriate. My mom's paying for the room. Like, he just moved here, so he didn't have the job at the time. But, she was being very, good to us, and this is what you're gonna do with it? Like, are you kidding me? So it was just, I told him, I wanted to leave. Like, I was just like, if you're gonna be this just messed up, after we took this big step, like, then you know what, I don't want to be with you. And he started crying, like, and oh my gosh, sociopaths and narcissists can cry like on command. It's disgusting. And so, like, when you're watching it, you just can't imagine somebody faking this kind of emotion. It's so convincing, and it entraps you, and it tugs at your heart, because you're thinking, this person must really understand where I'm coming from. This person must really feel bad for what they did. And that's not the truth. The reason why they cry is because they feel bad for being caught. So he was crying, and, I forgave him because we were early on in the relationship, and I said, okay, you know what, maybe he just needs to mature in that regard, and that he doesn't understand, like, what it means to be serious. I mean, like, he was with another woman, she was young too, so, like, girl, who had these ideas of, from what he told me, it was her idea to have open relationships, so maybe he got used to that. And I tried to be understanding. And that's another thing about these sociopaths. You will always try to understand them, and they will not be understanding of you. It's always, I don't know how to say it. It's just, you're always trying to understand from both sides. You always feel like you're thinking for them, because in a sense you are, it's part of cognitive dissonance. You're trying to make sense of what's not making sense. So that is human nature, and you'll find that you're always thinking for both of you, because obviously, like, you're going to be asking yourself, is this person emotionally retarded? And like, there's something not right. They just don't seem to be normal. And yes, that is the problem. If you find yourself wondering how someone is doing these things and not seeing what they're doing, there is a problem. That is a huge problem. And this, this narcissistic stuff is something that you should take in consideration if this is what you're going through. But back to, the story. So I found out that he was, watching this porn. We forgave each other. And I didn't know that this level of, it's going to be a pattern. And, that's a thing. It never gets resolved with a sociopath. It's always going to be a pattern. And it was his addiction. So I caught him. We made up. Then we moved on. And again, everything went back to being perfect. It was in that honeymoon phase. And the honeymoon phases initially lasted pretty long. In the beginning, a couple other red flags is that he would talk about other women, how hot they were, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, this guy's really immature. And yes, guys are immature if they do that. You hear me, guys? If you're out there, don't do that. That's immature. If you have a conscience, you really don't want to hear that crap. Unless, your person states otherwise. But, those were the smaller things that I could get over. But with a sociopath, it's always like a never ending, like, rabbit hole of crap. It just gets worse and worse as you find out things. So we moved on, and when I was about 8 months pregnant, I went online, and he let me use his email to order things on eBay. And I found a message from a girl, and I was just like, who is this? It's not your mom, it's not your cousin, it's not your friends, it was weird, and it just struck me as weird. So I clicked on it, and it was a message from a website to meet women, to hook up. And I was like, what the hell? And I thought it was spam. So I was just like, it could be spam. But I clicked on it anyway because it showed that he had a screen name. And I was like, okay, this doesn't seem like spam. Excuse me. Whew. So I clicked on it, and it brought me to his profile of, trying to meet women. It had all his information on it. He actually had, excuse me again, sorry, a legitimate active account on these websites. They were old, but they were to meet, like, hookers and, like, local women to, like, have sex with. And I'm thinking, why the hell do you have this website? Like, I mean, that's just sick. I mean, can't you just be normal? And, it is the signs of a sex addict. I'm sorry. If you're looking to go hook up and you want to pay for sex, there's a line, you're over it. You're over that line. Hate to break it to you. So he was there on the websites, and I was 8 months pregnant, and it just completely tore me up. I was so shocked and hurt that, because I mean, it was like someone shot me. I just couldn't believe that this is what he was doing. And later on in the relationship, like, we fought about it. He told me a lie that his ex made those websites, and they were old, so I was inclined to believe him. I said, okay, but delete them. Like, what the hell? Like, you don't need this stuff on your, unless you still want to use it, delete it. So he deleted it, and I thought that was that. But, it was just an ongoing pattern of finding these websites and getting into huge arguments. And these arguments, got worse and worse to the point where he got violent. I thought he had depression, and I thought he was struggling with depression. He would break everything, like my doors, everything of mine, not anything of his. He would break my stuff, like my house that I bought for us. And that's another thing, they get you to commit, so they get you to do these things, and you feel obligated because you think you're in this serious relationship, and they're this giving person, so this does happen. He broke my doors in my house. He broke my car. He punched my car, vents and stuff. It just got worse. And I just kept finding more and more evidence. There was one website that got brought up, like Adult Friend Finder, Fuckbook. That's a real website. Yeah, he had accounts on those. Unbelievable crap. I tried counseling with this person, everything, but it was just always lies and him getting more violent. There was a night when I first bought our house. This story is really hard for me to talk about, but I feel that if this is happening to anybody, that they need to just leave. Like, you need to get help. Don't be embarrassed. Please just leave. Don't, stay. He ended up sexually assaulting me the night I bought our house when we were alone. My daughter was staying with my mother, and he tried to commit suicide. And these people, they can go that far. And again, like, I'm just giving the overall story, but I will be going into more of an analytical thing in different videos. So I'm just going to try to wrap it up now because the time is a ticking. So, you know, I just kept finding all these things. It was throwing me through so many emotions because on one hand, I was talking to other people and they told me, oh, he's a guy. He's going to do what he wants to do. He's going to, you know, look at other women and this and that. And honestly, like, yes, having attraction is completely normal. Everybody has attraction, but when you're actively dipping your foot in the pool or whatever you want to call it, like looking for women or setting up these websites to meet other people, like you are setting yourself up for that, you know, that downfall. Do I think all people who do that are narcissistic? No. I think that sometimes people can do it out of insecurity, but that is still your problem. So anyway, he was doing it because he was using insecurity as an excuse, and that's what these people do. To wrap things up, how the relationship ended is, you know, I was trying to get him through the sex addiction. I was accepting that he had it. I didn't want to leave because I was just so entrapped with him. I was addicted to him, and they get you addicted by setting up these fights and then making up, and it actually creates a trauma bond. So your brain gets actually hooked like a drug onto this. So he ended up getting married behind my back because the lies just kept getting bigger and bigger. He married an immigrant from another country, like a mail order bride, but he knew it was his friend's cousin or whatever. But, you know, he lied to me that much that even on, like, he called it a business trip. He took a plane over there, married her, and I moved out because I was tired of it. I had actually found that he was on another sex website to meet these hookers with nude pictures, and that's what made me move out. Then he sent me pictures of his business trip kissing this other woman. And that's all mind games, you know what I mean? And I was just thinking, wow, you got married behind my back after we were together for 4 years and this and that. And he was putting me through all this bullshit and then finds a new supply. And yes, she is his new supply. That was that. That is what ended. He kicked me out of the house. I left everything, you know, to move because I had to move. He threatened my life. He said if I ever went with another guy, he'd kill me and kill the guy. Like this was that bad. And yes, this stuff happens. People have always said, oh, you're so young to go through this and blah, blah, blah. I am for certain that this happens a lot. And I just want to bring this to light and expose these people for who they are and also try to help, you know. This is unbelievable bullcrap that people go through. And, you know, it's just, this is what happened. That is my story. That is how it began and ended. But I'm going to be breaking it down to help other people from what I've learned and understood from this. Yep. So that's that. Sorry if it was a lot. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more videos because there will be a lot more. All right. Have a good day.